As people are still coming in, we just want to make a few announcements. One primary announcement to please silence or turn off your cell phones. Also, the guest register is in the lobby. Please take a moment to sign that before you leave today. There is child care in the back, if any of you will need that. And we want to thank Eileen Argenbright for the music today. And so now we will hear again from Eileen, I Am That I Am.
Actually, we're all going to be singing that.
Oh, we're all going to be singing that. Okay, then we're all going to be singing I Am That I Am. So put on your singing voice.
I am that I am, has sent me to this moment. Here I am, that I am, has sent me to this moment. Here I am, to be the voice and to lead the heart through which heaven is made on earth. To be the voice and to lead the heart through which heaven is made on earth. I am that I am, has sent me to this moment. Here I am that I am, has sent me to this moment. Here I am, to be the voice and to lead the heart through which heaven is made on earth. To be the voice and to lead the heart through which heaven is made on earth. I am that I am, has sent me to this moment. Here I am, I am that I am, has sent me to this moment. Here I am.
Can we just leave that slide up on the screen for a few more seconds? Let's make this a part of our opening prayer. The words by Richard Levy, put to music by Shanti. So please know these words in your heart. This is a prayer that Richard knew about himself, and I trust that we all know it about ourselves today as well. Let's say this together without singing. Say the words out loud. I am that I am, has sent me to this now moment. Here I am, to be the voice and to be the heart through which heaven is made known on earth. To be the voice and to be the heart through which heaven is made known on earth. And with that opening prayer, we have a glimpse into the life of Richard Levy. That song sums it up. So I ask you to take a deep breath And if it feels good for you to close your eyes as we continue in prayer, listening to the words of Hafiz from the book I Heard God Laughing. One day the sun admitted, I am just a shadow. I wish I could show you the infinite incandescence that has cast my brilliant image. I wish I could show you when you are lonely or in darkness, the astonishing light of your own being. We take another deep breath and deepen into this holy, holy wisdom that our brother Richard taught so well and invited us to know. The astonishing light of our own being. And so we set intention, prayerful intention, right here, right now, that we sense our own wholeness, the light of our own being, as we celebrate the life of our brother Richard. We set intention to leave here today knowing our own fullness and wholeness and light even more deeply. We give thanks that together we feel and are the one presence, known by many names. Today we call this presence love. And so we are here in oneness and in love. We say, so it is, and so we let it be. Namaste. Let's take another deep breath just because I need it. I was in the kitchen this morning making my tea where Richard and I had one of our last conversations together. And he was dancing all around. I said, Richard, I'm going to do your memorial today. He said, I know. So I know that if you're here to celebrate the life of Richard Levy, that you know that tears and laughter are welcome. We are here to be with one another, close in oneness, and to hold one another and embrace one another and celebrate with one another, that we even get to share this journey together, and that we shared and continue to share our journey with this one that we know as Brother Richard Levy. It was in January of this year that 6 of us were at a beach house in Topsail, North Carolina, and we were sitting at the dining room table, Maureen and Richard, Aaron and Ed Kozak, and David and me. And our hearts were feeling so much because we had just said goodbye to our brother Sky St. John in Hawaii. And we were feeling that so up close and personal. And then we were holding prayer vigil for our beloved Chad O'Shea from Asheville Unity. And now here we are around the table again to take a deep breath. Life is just a moment. This physical life, this physical human life is just a tiny, tiny little moment. And we get to share it together. I said to Richard that night, I said, you know, the tears come so much more easily these days. And so does the laughter. Which wasn't hard to do with Richard, with his body and crazy sense of humor. So, we are here to acknowledge this holy moment around the table. This is the circle today. And we are here to celebrate. We're here to remember. And we're here to deepen together and to continue what Richard felt so strongly about, and that continues to be, that you and I know the astonishing light of our own being. And we are here to celebrate a life well lived and a life full of love. And it has been my great privilege to know Richard and Maureen since 1980-something. And in 1992, Dave and I got married 22 years ago in Santa Barbara. And then we continued our honeymoon trip to San Luis Obispo up the coast, spoke at Richard and Maureen's church, and then on to the rest of our honeymoon. It's because of Richard Levy that I can say I have been able to say yes so easily, and maybe sometimes not so easily, to being in ministry. I said, well, if it can be that deep and that fun all at the same time. And Maureen and Richard have shown us that. It can be deep and fun, lighthearted, all at the same time. We can hold it all. I have the great privilege of knowing these two people for 22, 25 years. Many of you have known them much longer. They have touched our lives in ways that we can never speak of all of those ways today in this brief time together. But there will be a time later in the service for you to speak briefly some of your remembrances, and we'll have microphones for that. I would like to read a reading from the book In the Silence, 365 Days of Inspiration from Spirit by Suzanne Geisman. It's entitled Win-Win, and it's also printed on the back of the beautiful photo that you have of Richard. You lay to rest your most beloved and ask, how can I go on without them? First, understand that they are not resting. And I can tell you that's true. He's dancing in my kitchen today. They are more active than you are now, that they no longer drag around that cumbersome body. They visit you often now, for when you think of them, they feel it. It is you who feel sorrow, but do not feel it for the one who has moved on. Treat yourself lovingly as you adjust to this new chapter in your life. The giant whole is mainly the physical presence. Fill this by bringing to mind all the more love you have experienced by having them in your life. And what will you do with that love? Well, go out and give it to those who need it. Those who did not know the love you shared with your loved one. Translate what appears to be a loss into a gain on the greater scale. Give that love in memory of the one who still walks with you, and you are allowing their love to live on. You will see them again. And when you do, you can celebrate the loving use you put to the love they brought to this world. Now that is a win-win situation instead of a loss. And so what we speak of today, what we experience here today, we're passing on the love and the message of oneness that Richard Levy brought to us. Teacher of unity, teacher of oneness, teacher of living and loving fully and lavishly. And so we continue now with a video that was put together by Reverend Karen Lindvig at Seattle Unity, and it was to celebrate Richard Levy's 25th year in ministry. So that would have been a few years ago, because all total was 36 years in ministry, 36 years. So now we'll have that video from Seattle Unity. Okay, can we turn the lights down, y'all?
from a daughter in Bakersfield, California. She swears on a stack of Bibles that her father is a godsend to women. Laura Fitch, tell us why your dad should be a hunk.
Well, Maury, he may be 42, but it's no wonder his church is filled every Sunday.
Okay, I want you to know something. You're not going to believe this. He is 42 years old and a minister. Please welcome Richard Levy.
I'd like to especially thank my crazy daughter for sneaking this picture in, for my wife Maureen for letting me do it, and for my congregation in San Luis Obispo. This one's for you.
The minister.
The minister.
Preacher.
The preacher.
Who looks like this.
It looks like this.
What is your congregation going to say?
Well, you know, I ran it by my congregation, I ran it by my board people, and everybody said it sounded like good, clean fun. If I could keep a pair of pants on, they'd let me do it. That's all I got to do.
It is Sunday morning at Christ Unity Church in San Luis Obispo, and this congregation is clapping along with their minister, Richard Levy.
I want you to know something. You're not going to believe this. He is 42 years old and a minister. Please welcome Richard Levy.
This is the Maury Povich Show, and this audience is also clapping for a slightly more revealing, although no less ministerial, Richard Levy. He is one of the few men featured in tomorrow's Hunk Time.
I'd like to especially thank my crazy daughter for sneaking this picture in, for my wife Maureen for letting me do it, and for my congregation in San Luis Obispo. This one's for you.
Now, at first glance, you may think being a priestly hunk is taking the biblical truism, the body is a temple, a little bit too far. But it wasn't Minister Levy's idea. His daughter mailed in a candid picture to Maury Povich without her father's blessings, so to speak.
You know, I think he's a very good-looking man for his age, and not too many girls my age can say their dads are pretty handsome. So, yeah, I took a chance, and it worked.
It may have worked, but it was not without reservation. After all, he is a minister and has a duty to his flock.
To display myself in front of a room full of screaming women was real different for me. And I kept getting support from my daughter who was with me. And she said, smile, don't strain, it's okay, you can do it, and have fun with it. And that's what I did.
But his flock is giving their minister very little flack about flexing on national television.
One of the things that we learn here at Unity is that God wanted us to have fun in life. And so in addition to the beautiful spiritual message that we get here, we have a minister who only is the very best at delivering a beautiful spiritual message, but he's also the best at having a good time.
We were all initially kind of surprised by it, but when we thought about it, we thought what a wonderful opportunity for Richard to show the fun side of him and the fun side of ministry. We enjoy that part of Richard every Sunday.
We need young, good-looking ministers, and we certainly have
His is a faith born out of God's wondrous creation. He has been taking that ministry to congregations for over a decade. Now, although it's a little novel approach to preaching, it may still serve God in its own special way.
If it brings 10 or 20 new people into the church because of what they saw on television, who were curious about what someone could do who'd be like that as a minister, then I feel like we've successfully done what I really want to do, which is bring people into what we teach at Unity.
Wait a second. I think there's more. Was that it? I think there was more, David. Is that it? Yeah. That would be me. Thank you very much.
500 525,600 minutes, 525,000 moments so dear, 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year? In daylights, in sunsets, in midnights, in cups of coffee, in inches, in miles, in laughter and strife. In 525,600 minutes, how do you measure a year in the life? How about love? How about love? How about love? Seasons of love. Seasons of love.
525,600 minutes, 525,000 journeys to plan, 525,600 minutes. How do we measure the life of a woman or a man?
In truth that she learned, or in times that he cried, in bridges he burned, or the way that she died.
It's time now to sing out, though the story never ends.
Let's celebrate, remember a year in the life of friends. Remember that love.
You got to remember the love. You know that love is a gift from above. So long, keep on praising God. Measure your life in love.
Seasons of love. Seasons of love.
Measure your life in
Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows? Only time. And who can say if your love grows as your heart shows? Only time. Who can say why your heart sighs as you love only time? And who can say why your heart cries when you love lies only Who can say when the roads meet that love might be in your heart? And who can say when the days meet if the night meets all your night meets all your
I want to thank you for that. You don't know what an impact that had on David. To be able to speak in Unity churches. He wasn't so sure about speaking in churches. The first time we went to San Luis Obispo together on our honeymoon, Richard came riding into the church on his bike with his long hair. And David said, well, maybe it won't be so bad to speak in a Unity church. Thank you, Maureen. And to the beautiful assembly of Maureen's family who are here, it means so much. And to the whole family. And so we're going to now have a meditation song and then go into a brief meditation. I invite us to take 3 deep, conscious, healing breaths. From A Course in Miracles, there is a silence into which the world cannot intrude. There is an ancient peace that we carry in our hearts and have never lost. And there is a sense of holiness in us that the thought of fear has never touched. And so in this now moment, feeling the one presence, the one power within our hearts, that river of life that Jesus talked about. We touch into that silence, we touch into that peace, we touch into that holiness. As we take another deep breath, we touch into the gratitude that our lives have intersected with the lives of Richard Levy and Maureen Levy. and touching into that silence and that peace and that holiness. We touch into that river of life, of tears and laughter, of extraordinary insights, sense of well-being beyond all circumstances and appearances. We touch into all that Richard's life stood for. Knowing God, knowing self, knowing oneness, knowing unity with that one presence and with all life. As we take another deep breath, we let our hearts and our minds open even more to be present to the words that are spoken here today, to be present to the energy of love that's here today, to be present to the awareness that life is eternal, consciousness continues, and only the form changes. So as we continue to celebrate together, each one of us in the silence of our own hearts, we say yes to opening our hearts even more. We say yes, yes, yes. And so it is. So we let it be. Namaste. And now we will hear one of Richard's favorite songs entitled Love Holds No Grievances by Richard's good brother friend, Charlie Spink.
Love holds no grievances. I would wake to myself by laying all my grievances aside and wakening in Him. My grievances hide the light of the world in me. I cannot see what I have hidden, yet I want to let it be revealed to me for my salvation and the salvation of the world. Love holds no grievances. I would wake to myself by laying all my grievances aside and wakening in Him. My grievances hide the light of the world in me. I cannot see what I have hidden, yet I want to let it be revealed to me for my salvation and the salvation of the world. Love holds no grievances. I would wake to myself by laying all my grievances aside and wakening in Him. By laying all my grievances aside and awakening in Him. By laying all my grievances aside and awakening in Him.
In a few moments, we're going to have the mic available for those of you who would like to give a very brief moment of remembrance for Richard and for Maureen. And that sharing will begin with Christine, Maureen's sister. Carol.
Carol's reading Christine.
Carol's reading Christine's writing.
I'm reading Christine's writing.
Okay. Okay. We have a mic up here for you. Thank you.
You have to stand closer to the mic.
All right.
A lot closer.
Good afternoon. I have a pretty loud voice anyway, so I think you all will be able to hear me. I'm Carol. I am one of Maureen's sisters and one of Richard's sisters-in-law. There are quite a few of us, as you probably heard. And you all are here today, so you already know how unique Richard was. You know about his energy and his unbounded dedication to your church and to the principles of consciousness, kindness, forgiveness, and love. You've seen his ever-present smile, and you were probably fortunate enough to have heard his hearty laugh. We knew a different side of Richard. We had to kind of grow with him as a family member. Maureen was the oldest, and so she got to pave the way. And we wanted to share with you today some things about Richard from the perspective of his acquired family by marriage. Maureen and Richard became first acquainted in Miami back in the day. They lived in the same apartment complex, and Richard first saw Maureen at the apartment pool when she was sunbathing in that bikini that we saw. He claimed that he was immediately overwhelmed with the feeling of spiritual connection. From that moment, he and Maureen were inseparable. In 1974, they decided to get married. They just walked a half block down from their home to the Justice of the Peace. And on that day, Maureen's family inherited a fair-haired, handsome, fast-talking New Yorker. And on Richard's side, he inherited a beautiful wife and daughter, but also Maureen's parents and her 6 sisters and 4 brothers. So it was quite a gathering. Richard went to work first for a family business after graduating from the University of Miami with a business degree. He was working in a manufacturing import company that supplied Woolworth stores in the U.S. with these great big flowered plastic tote bags that we probably all remember, or some of us remember. At the time, the items were in great demand by babushka-wearing women of certain ages. It was quite successful. He was required to learn the business, his family business, from the ground up. This included sacrifices on his part.
Carol,
I'm sorry. He had to relocate from sunny Miami to New York and then to the Windy City. Once in Chicago, Maureen and Richard took a small apartment located over a drugstore on a very busy street in Evanston, Illinois. Christine happened to be living in Evanston at the time, and was, of course, very happy to have Maureen and her family nearby, which filled a real void at the time for Christine. Even back then, Richard had that same personality. He was very high energy, quick to smile, disarming personality, and he was always laughing, oftentimes at his own expense. He was the first and only bodybuilder that we knew. And at times they had very few valuable possessions or personal possessions. Richard always seemed to have a weight bench and weights in the living room of wherever they were living, and he used them. He was, before any of us thought about healthy lifestyles, Richard was there. He was already and always in excellent physical condition. We saw that on Maury also. Maury and Richard were both vegetarians back in that day and into health foods way before it was popular to do so. And one of my sister's favorite memories is of Richard scooping gobs of bee pollen out of a giant jar and pureeing it in a blender with some unidentified liquids and then guzzling it all down like a beer. His entire face and his neck would turn crimson for about 20 minutes, and he loved that sensation. He called it the niacin rush. But during their time in Chicago, Richard came to realize that maybe he wasn't meant to sell plastic totes to another woman. He and Maureen yearned for a more meaningful lifestyle, a simpler lifestyle, one without material possessions, but one that embraced a more spiritual environment. And they put that plan in place. Richard quit his job, which did not make his family real happy, and he and Maureen sold off their worldly possessions. They bought a little Scotty trailer, circa 1950s. They hitched it up to their old beat-up Volkswagen Beetle, packed a few necessary essentials, a couple kids, crammed it all into that tiny car and camper and headed out. When they left Chicago there in that situation, it was the beginning of their real transition from East Coasters to West Coasters and subsequent nomads. They moved from Chicago they moved to Tennessee to the farm, a spiritual community. And then it began a transition from Tennessee onto New Jersey, Chicago, Colorado, then to Missouri for the seminary study, then to the good states of Washington, California, Hawaii, and back to Washington in their service to Unity congregations before coming here to Wilmington. The one thing that they had in common, most of these, the good states, was they were either water-based or mountain-based, and enhanced their quest to live in spiritual environments. Now, my sister Joanne and Christine visited Richard and Maureen in their early days in Sequim, Washington, and learned quickly what Richard and Maureen had left the Eastern Seaboard for. Maureen and Richard took my sisters to hot springs in the rainforest, to see a spring blizzard on Hurricane Ridge. But by now they were pretty advanced West Coasters, and they were wearing Birkenstocks, and they were eating only vegetarian food. They introduced my sisters to tofuti. And at one highlight of the trip, Maureen announced that she would be serving everyone tofu vegetable soup for dinner. Everybody was a little worried about it, but Alethea and Maura confided to Joanne and Christine, we really call it barf soup. Richard didn't give in, and he ate bowls and bowls of it with gusto. Maybe it was good, maybe it was to make Maureen feel better.
He actually liked it.
Okay, there you have it. As the years passed, and I'm sure you all here have noticed that too, we all started aging. Gracefully but aging, but not Richard. He was 20 years old when we met him, and he looked 20 years old a month ago. He, as you know, when he was 40, he still looked 20 enough to be selected on the Maury Povich show, which we saw on the video there. A 42-year-old bodybuilding minister. It was really a dream come true for him because he liked flexing those muscles for people. He had the great honor, Richard did, of giving away his 2 daughters at their weddings, and also being able to preside over those ceremonies as the minister. That's pretty special. And he was a good sport about it. When Alethea was married in Las Vegas, Richard officiated the wedding service while impeccably dressed as Elvis Presley, wearing a heavily sequined suit, and we can all picture this, right? It was a beautiful ceremony, and sparkling Elvis spoke eloquently of kindness and love and commitment. My mother, our mother, absolutely loved Richard, and Richard loved my mother. Maureen and Richard invited her to stay with them for a month at a time wherever they were living, whether it was in Washington, California, or Hawaii. And Richard was always a gracious host to my mother, made her laugh, showed her great times. He thrilled her with long, scenic rides on the back of his motorcycle along California and Hawaii's coastal highways. They shared lots of love and laughs and wine. And I know she always spoke of some of her most fond memories were of her times with Richard and these wild things he had her doing. When Richard and Maureen first announced that they were interviewing with the Unity Church of Wilmington, busybody sisters here were expressing their opinions, saying, no, you, come on, you're West Coasters now. And we don't do Birkenstocks and stuff over here. You're going to hate it. But they're open-minded. They stay open-minded, as usual. And we were afraid because everything was so different. But Christine happened to be in Southport during the week that Maureen and Richard were here interviewing at the Church of Wilmington. And in meeting with them afterward, Richard explained that he had had a wonderful experience in Wilmington and that he felt that the people here were so warm and so full of energy, and that if the position were offered to him, he would certainly accept it. And as we know, the position was offered and he did accept it. The people of Wilmington Unity Church have extended extraordinary friendship and love to Richard and to Maureen. And bringing them back to the East Coast, our family was given the opportunity to spend time and reconnect with Richard and Maureen. And for these things, we are very grateful to Unity of Wilmington. This return back east allowed us to see them in ways that we had not been able to do while they were all the way out west. We were able to share holidays with them. Maura and Jim and Emerson spent a lot of weekends with Maureen and Richard on Wrightsville Beach, and everyone was able to gather in North Carolina, in Raleigh at Terry's house, or in Charleston at Joanne's house for holidays, which we had not been able to do for a long time due to the distance. Also, Maureen and Richard got to make a trip to Florida, to Christine and Rick's home where they live in this beautiful home on the coast, and Richard loved the water. Richard would get up just before dawn. He would walk out to the dock where the sun unfolded over this beautiful bay, and he would meditate there for a long period of time. But of course, he's back out east, so in the morning, one morning, when everybody was getting breakfast, Rick, Christine's husband, said, what is Richard doing out there on that dock? And Christine answered, well, he's charging his solar panels. And he would do that in the mornings, and after that he would go for miles running on the Gulf Beach and spend the rest of the day on the water. He got to snorkel and fish, and during that time, we all learned that Richard did know his way around a boat, just like he knew his way around so many other things. And we learned that when he was young, he used to fish off Long Island with his father, and that was something that he always had loved to do. When Richard passed away on October 5th, we were all overcome with grief, of course. Our sister Christine sent an email to close family and friends to let them know that Richard had passed. And in that email, she attached a photo from one of Richard's last days. In it, he and Maureen were sitting together, holding hands. His eyes were closed, and Maureen and Richard were enfolded in the rays of the setting sun, and he was smiling that gentle, peaceful smile that we all know so well. He was an exceptional person. He was a unity minister, and he lived what he preached, a life bursting with purpose, love, kindness, and always laughter. We loved Richard, and we always will. And as much as we'll miss Richard, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for having allowed him into your family and to allow him to spend part of his life as part of your family. And we thank you, and we'll miss him, and we love him.
I love that Richard was charging his solar panels. I love that. By a show of hands, how many of you feel that Richard was one of the people who charged your solar panels? Look at the hands. This is a time now to share some of your brief remembrances. There's a microphone here, and my husband David Hiller will bring the microphone around also to you. So please raise your hand if you would like to say something over here.
I knew Richard probably a little bit differently than many of you did. I've come to some services here, a few, but I knew him really through performing and dance or parties. As an actor, I always loved when Richard was in the audience, even if I didn't know he was there, because the minute he laughed, I knew Richard's there, and his laughter would rise above anything else in the theater and would just ring in my ears. And I remember the first time I heard him laugh, I thought, this man laughs like a Buddhist. It's deep, it's uninhibited, and I'm sure it came from the very essence of his being, which I interpreted to be joy. So when I would hear his laughter, it was like, all right, Richard's here. And I would also see him at parties here at the Unity Church, and I'd see him dancing. And you know, there's a phrase, dance like no one's watching. And it was like, he's dancing his laugh. You know, it's like, it's joyous, it's beautiful. And I'm gonna really miss that. Anyways, when I'd see him dance or hear him laugh, it struck me as this is reality. This is now, and it's real. And every once in a while, I wished I had them more often, but every once in a while when I have those real moments, like this is real, I hear him laughing and I see him dancing somewhere. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Nancy, and some of you may know I served on the search committee when we found Richard. And guess what video he sent us? It's a hunk. And after we got over our initial shock, I knew he had to be ours. But if we're sharing favorite moments, I think my very favorite moment of Richard was we were sitting in a board meeting. I was on the board at the time. And I don't remember what challenge we were facing, but there was all kinds of conversation going on. And Richard caught my eye. I looked over at him, and he had on a soft t-shirt that outlined his magnificent chest. And he's got a statue of the Buddha, which he's holding on top of his head. And he did a pep dance for me. How you could stay serious was beyond me. But my very favorite moments with Richard were every time I walked through the door and he was there. He always made me feel special, beautiful, and like I was an important person in his life. And he was probably one of the most important people ever to walk into mine. Thank you.
I'm Debbie Creasy. One of the things that you might not know about me that I share with Richard is that I too used to be a bodybuilder. After Richard passed, of course, he was on my mind a lot, as I'm sure he was on yours. And I wanted to write something to honor him and that would remember him. So I struggled with the poem for a while, and it just wasn't working. I was trying to describe, what he looked like, what he sounded like. And I kind of gave up, and then I woke up after a very startling dream about 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was one of those dreams where you're given something and if you don't get up and write it down, you're never going to get it back, so you better get up. And anyway, in the poem, I was given some images and some words from Richard. And I got up and I wrote this, and this is to honor him and for Maureen. Illumination. The children came in singing, bearing light in their hands from the waking forest. They formed a circle around me and lifted their hands, releasing the light upward. As it filled the room with the scent of lichens and pine, brilliant greens and golds danced like glittering motes in the windows of the glorious morning. The children came back dancing, salt water on their feet from the summer sea. Their footprints made patterns on the glowing floor, so I could learn the grace and leaps of dolphin and seahorse. Their dripping hair left tide pools of salt, which dried in swirls and whirls of pearly dust, so I could dance again when the full moon filled the windows.
I don't have a lot to say, but I wanted to share my observances. My name is Roxanne. And what I found amazing about our wonderful minister was how he fully, completely, and entirely could exist in 3 different, but not separated, places all at the same time. When Maureen, when they came and did the audition Sunday, I remember him being up, down, back, forth. He jumped over a chair, and then he came over, and he was sharing all of himself with us. He was, and he continued to be, on the subjective level, fully experiencing everything, where he was, oriented to person, place, and being, where he was, and talking about that. And then on an objective level, about, well, what he was thinking, what he was learning, and how he brought God into this. And then on an ethereal level, where if you looked, it was like white lightning was jumping out of him all the time. And his wonderful, wonderful companion and wife, Maureen, was holding ballast so that he didn't spontaneously combust. And week after week after week, this is what we saw and experienced, no matter what was going on. And he showed us that. He showed us himself the very first time he came. And we continue to love and explore that. And I want to thank you, Maureen, for taking that very important job of keeping him with us and not spontaneously combusting into white light.
He let us know just how human he was. Through all of his trials and tribulations with Maureen.
Wait. Do you want to rephrase that? Can you rephrase that?
With being human. The human nature. Okay. Sorry, Maureen. But, he helped us every Sunday to let us know that during the week when we fell and scraped our knees, we had to get up, pull ourselves up, bandage our wounds, and know that we are all still in the light of God. We all are. And he gave that gift to me many times. Thank you for allowing the choices to come into our lives, to choose which way we're going to take. And he truly was a blessing. Thank you. Thank you for coming to Wilmington. Thank you for being a part of my life.
Way in the back. My experience with Richard and Maureen started very early. We had a meeting shortly after they arrived, and the meeting was about kind of strategic planning and what are we going to do and things like that. And it was back here in the parlor, and we had a blank sheet of paper, one of those chart packs, and we started talking and laughing and lots of things going on. But at the end of the day, what we ended up with on that blank sheet of paper was something that has kind of held this congregation, I don't know, it's the spirit of the congregation, and it's tune in, turn on, tap into the loving presence of the divine. And I think after that I knew this was going to be just a great experience with these two.
Hi, I'm Alan.
Hi, Ellen.
I used to do a few little jobs for Maureen and Richard at their house, and it was a blessing for me to be able to do that. And after we'd be up in the attic or wherever, we'd go to Flaming Amy's for a burrito. And I realized what that time, how precious it was to have that moment with Richard, just Richard and I. It was a blast. But we had a sailboat and we had a wedding, and Richard officiated this wedding. And it was a couple, and the bride had 2 kids. And so Richard had like this special way of bringing the 2 kids into this ceremony on our boat, just floating around the Cape Fear River. And it was just so special the way he did that, and that couple always thanked us over and over how wonderful it was. It was magic how he brought the spirit, and he brought the 2 kids into the wedding. He wasn't just marrying the bride, he was marrying the bride and 2 kids. And that was just so cool. But the last thing I want to mention is, Richard wrote great thank you notes. I have every one of them. And he would say and he said this to a lot of people, and called you his sweetheart. How many people has he called his sweetheart? But one of the last things I did on the website was told him that he was the sweetheart. And he thanked me so much for that, because he was our sweetheart.
Yeah.
And I'm Mac, and hi, Maureen.
Hey, Mac.
Terrific to see you. Richard, other than being my minister, I don't go to the YMCA as often as I should, but I went enough to where occasionally I would run into Richard, and he would be in there, and I can picture in my mind that very corner where his locker always was. And when I go there now, it's like kind of that empty space that brings back memories. But I remember a couple of times, if I would go toward the latter part of the week, he would be in the hot tub. He loved the hot tub. And he would be practicing his message for Sunday in the hot tub, mouthing the words. And of course, it was kind of noisy enough in there you really couldn't hear anything. But then I would think, if he stays in there much longer, no telling what the message is going to sound like Sunday. Or maybe he had already been in there too long. But one of the things that I came to really appreciate is Richard's authenticity, the real person. And it gave me that much more confidence that on Sunday mornings when we recognize the visitors, I make a particular effort to try to get to the visitors and tell them that anytime I invite anyone here, I can promise them one thing. No matter how you feel when you come in those doors, you'll feel better when you leave. And to have a minister that you have so much confidence in the message, in him, in the ministry, in the church. Of course, it's probably just a unity thing, but at the same time, Richard really made that real. And it was a confidence that I had that I didn't hesitate to invite people back, because I knew the very next Sunday if they came, they would get a blessing. It's a given, it's a done deal, and that's why this congregation grew and grew and grew. And that's why this place is full to capacity, because Richard was the type person that shared and gave, and you received, and he's just going to be missed. There's no other person like him, but he crammed a lot of quality in the years he had, and that is the thing to honor.
I'm Sis. I've been to other Unity churches prior to establishing life here in Wilmington, and when Richard and Maureen came, I really, really, really got charged, because I feel that the two of them brought unity into the 21st century. For the first time, the belief system was exactly what I felt. And I could go, yes, yes, yes. And consequently, Unity of Wilmington has changed. You know, we'll never be the same as we were. And nor should we. Because he's put us on a path. They've put us on a path. They're a team. The support that was needed back and forth. We're going places. So some of you have never been here. Some of you maybe are in Wilmington. Stick around here, because we're shakers and we're making things happen. And it's all because of these guys, because they set the stage for it all to happen. The love that you feel when you come in, the hugs. We've learned from Richard that that's genuine. And that love comes from the heart. And it comes from the heart from all of us. So when you come, if you haven't been here, you come and you throw your arms around us, and we'll throw our arms around you. And you can feel that love. And that's what it's all about. And that's what he's told us. Because it's all about love.
Amen.
I wanted to tell you a little story about how I first met Richard, and I don't even think Maureen or Margaret know about this, but I first met him right after we got married. A couple days after we got married in Santa Barbara, we went to San Luis Obispo to his church, and we were going to speak that day. And when I first came in, I met him, and I thought, wow, this is great. He's got this long hair. He's this wild-looking guy. I immediately liked him. And he asked me where we stayed the night before. And I said, well, we stayed at the Madonna Inn, which is a very unusual place, shall we say, in San Luis Obispo. And he looked at me and he said, well, what room did you stay in? And I turned about 3 shades of red, and I said, we stayed in the caveman room. And he looked at me, and he did one of his flexing for Jesus, and he said, you are a man after my own heart. And we were the best of friends ever since that moment. Ever since that moment. And I love Richard with all my heart. I love Maureen with all my heart. And I've thought, why did God bring him home so soon? And this is what I came up with. And I think it's pretty much the same reason why God brought Sky St. John home. Because they are needed where they are now to welcome home all of us when it's our turn. Who better than Richard Levy to do that? This magnificent being, this avatar, this master on this planet, who also happened to be an amazing comedian. He had it all because he was real. He was real. And he came here to teach us how to be real, to be who we are, no matter what it looks like. He was an example of that in every moment. I love him with every cell of my being. I treasure the moments that we spent with Richard and Maureen. They are two of the most wonderful people we've ever met. They are existence, consciousness, bliss. And as Richard would say, amen, our women, and our children.
So first of all, I just want to say I don't know what I'm doing yet. So I just want to get that out because I know everybody is asking me that, and I really don't know yet what the plans are. I have my sister and her husband here, and they're going to be staying with me for a couple weeks, and I'm so glad to have them here because they're brilliant, and I know they're going to help me fit the next few pieces of my life into what I need to do next. So it was love at first sight over 42 years ago. And once we laid eyes on each other, we knew that we had found our life partners, for better or for worse. And we've had both of those for sure. We had an amazing life together, and with always putting spirit first, never knowing what direction life was going to pull us in. I think I have to move over here. I'm echoing from the thing over there. So, we lived in and served in so many wonderful and beautiful places, and we met and served and loved so many people, so many people. We loved all of you so much. When I think of who Richard was, I'd have to say that he was a man full of love and joy and humor, who'd be so amazingly spiritual and inspiring in one moment, and he could be the most sacrilegious, most awful person in the next. I had to work really hard, like You can't say that in church. He got away with a lot, but you don't know how much didn't happen there. He was also very disciplined, and he knew how to set his boundaries well. And as open as he was about his life from the pulpit, was really how closed he was at home. Our life at home was very private. And, you got to see on Sunday morning, like, how we worked everything out over the week. But, at home, he really liked to have his space around him. And let's not forget about the gym. He loved the gym, and I'm sure the people at the Y are really missing him because he was there all the time. But most of all, it was his love and devotion and understanding that God lives within each of us that really made him so special. Richard always said at memorials that the 3 questions we'd be asked when we die are, did we love well, did we live fully, and did we learn to let go? And over our lifetime together, I watched him grow and deepen in all those ways. And he loved well, he lived fully every day, and he learned how to let go. And whether it was his opinions, his emotions, and in the end, even his body and his body image. And that was really hard for him. So he did a good job. His last days were a testament on how to die with the same joy and grace and energy that he lived his whole life. Maura, Alethea, Xander, Emerson, the fathers of our grandkids, Jim and Olivier, and his parents, and it really, it goes to my family. We all had the honor and privilege of being a part of his earthly family, and it was an amazing blessing for all of us to be in his presence in this lifetime. And even as life that expressed itself through Richard has gone forth, we take comfort in knowing that he has rejoined that infinite pool of existence, consciousness, and bliss and joy from which we all come. For Richard, each day was a blessed event, each meal the very best, even the barf soup. He loved that stuff. And each Sunday was the best sermon he ever gave. And he always felt that way. It was great. I think really there were only 1 or 2 in the whole lifetime that we had together that I was like, I don't know if that was so good. But for the most part, he really did do a good job. And more than anything, he loved life and he loved himself. And I think that's something that we all have such a hard time doing. And he gave us that gift of, oh, if he can love himself doing that stuff, well, I guess I can love myself too. So he just had a way of sharing his completely insane humanness in a way that was always loving and endearing. It made everybody else okay to love and accept their shortcomings too. We met a man one time in Australia who kind of shook his head and said, I don't know how you do it, but somehow you even make your shortcomings seem admirable. And he did that. In his public life, he affected thousands of people all over the United States with his joy and his enthusiasm. And joining us in this circle of goodbyes stand all the people everywhere whose lives have been touched by the love and joy he expressed. As we stand in the doorway of all that is, I am that I am, we see Richard one more time using his props. And I was looking, I was like, oh, we should have put his doorway up, but I'm not sure what happened to it. I have to get that doorway. And in front of his favorite thing, an audience, he loved you guys. And could be picked up by the presence and carried through the doorway as a host of angels chant, job well done, job well done. Welcome home, job well done. One of his favorite readings from for memorials was from the Bhagavad Gita. Never the spirit was born, the spirit shall cease to be, never. Never was time, it was not. Endings and beginnings are dreams. Birthless and deathless and changeless abideth the spirit forever. Death does not touch it at all. Our paths will cross again. Our souls will shout with joy and laughter as we recall the lives we've lived, the ways we've trod, to find ourselves at last at home in God. So, we have another video that Reverend Karen Lindvik put together, and Barry Dennis wrote a special song for Richard. And so it's Barry's music, and the video was put together by Karen. I feel like I should do a song and dance or something. Go for it. Oh, it's on the PowerPoint.
I know we tend to believe the true masters only come from somewhere back in history, like Jesus and Buddha and Rumi. But that's just not true. I give to you a modern master.
Oh, that's the end.
My friend, Richard Levy.
That was the end. So if there.
Okay, so while y'all are finding that, I'm gonna go to another part. It's called being flexible in the moment. Okay. So while y'all are finding that, I want to read to you a letter written from the Hart clan family in Brighton Bush, where every year Maureen and Richard would do an annual Course in Miracles retreat. That's in Oregon. So this is written from them. Mahalo nui loa, meaning thank you very much. Richard, dear brother, mahalo nui loa. You have been such a gift for us here on Starship Earth. May your breath be our wind. May your kindness shine in the sunshine every day. When we see the light, may we remember you. For there are many special ones who come to love, to share, to teach, to laugh with. We will remember you always, dear Brother Richard, who is within all of us, as we are all one forever. God bless you, dear one. May your flight be one of golden light, angels gliding beside you as you journey to your new cosmic home. We look forward to seeing your contagious smile in the moon and in the stars at unexpected moments in all that is. Namaste.
Yes.
I knew a man like no other man, gentle, kind, and sweet. I know a man like no other man, the kind we all like to be. I know a man faithful and true to the one he loved his whole life through. I know a man who is a father. He took the whole world in his hands. I know a man who became the voice of the great I am that I am. He became the light, the way, the truth. He stepped into the love, the peace, the joy. He became the light, the way, the truth. Now all I can do is try to live a life that honors you. So people everywhere, if you think we don't stand a chance, all the world is lost. I'm begging you, please, please don't give up now. No matter the perceived cost. Because if you think there's no saints left in the world, and if you don't know where to start, I assure you, angels are real. See, I know one knows as Ohana's heart. So don't give up now, no, not now. It's gonna be alright. Just open your mind to the light, the way, the truth, into the love, the peace, the joy. Step into this life, this way. Now all we have to do is simple, you see. Just follow the example that's now been given to you and me. Practice well. Practice deeply. Not just for ourselves, all beings, but for all beings, everywhere. Practice well, practice deeply, not just for ourselves, but for all beings everywhere. Practice deeply, practice well, practice deeply, not just for ourselves, practice for all beings everywhere. Practice deeply, practice well, practice deeply, not just for ourselves, but for all beings everywhere. Let's all just jump into his life, his way. That's true. Let's dance in his love, his peace and joy. Such unending joy, such joy. Come on this way. It's for all of us. We can dance in it now. We can swim in it now. All we have to do is clear to me. Just follow the path he left so gracefully. I know we tend to believe that true masters only come from somewhere back in history, like Jesus and Buddha and Rumi. But that's just not true. I give to you a modern master, my friend, Richard Levy.
I bow to you.
Like no
Now he won't go away. Barry Dennis, you give him the floor and he didn't. I bow at your feet, Maureen, for helping us to experience this phenomenon called Richard Levy. And thank you to you, Precious, and your whole family for sharing your granddaddy with us. A few years ago, Sky St. John, Unity Minister at Unity of Hawaii, stayed at our home for a week. And we live in a little townhouse in Paulus Island on a little pond. It's a little place, little townhouse. And Sky St. John was sitting on the back deck and he said, "This is paradise." And what he was talking about was the feeling, the energy, the presence, the one presence that we were feeling and sharing together, the oneness. And then fast forward to not too many months ago. And Richard was sitting in the rocker in our sunroom, and he was looking at an icon that we have of Jesus. And he was doing his oneness blessing to Jesus. And of course, Jesus in that icon, his hands are up too, doing the oneness blessing. And Richard didn't know Sky had said that a few years ago, and Richard looked up to me and said, "This is paradise." And he's talking about the energy and the feeling. And that's what this is right now. This is paradise. This is what we all talk about, read about, hope for, meditate for, teach about. This is it. This is paradise. And so as we let ourselves soak in that energy of paradise that we are creating here together, and certainly what you invited in here a little over 5 years ago when you said yes to Maureen and Richard, you were right, sis. You in this unity of Wilmington, you opened yourself up to another level of experiencing oneness and paradise together. And so we close with this prayer for our brother Richard, and I invite you to know this for our brother Richard. It is now time to release Richard to his highest good. He will always live on as love within our hearts. But we release any ties that bind him to this earthly existence. Richard, Richard, may you be free from anger. May any ties of anger or frustration that bind you be released. May you be free from desire and greed. May you move beyond the appearance of outer satisfaction and always remember that you are whole and complete just as you are. May you be free from ignorance. May you cause no harm to yourself or others due to ignorance. May you be free from doubt. May you always remember you are a child of God. You are existence, consciousness, and bliss, love and joy. May you move forward in this knowingness with ease and grace. May you be free from jealousy. May you always look upon yourself and others with compassion and loving kindness. May you be free from pride and judgment of yourself and others. And may you be wise and always recognize the oneness of all beings. This prayer, which was written for Richard, I know we've all heard the words also for ourselves. May we be free from anything that keeps us from knowing love. And together, we'll now say the prayer of protection for Richard. And there's enough Unity people here who know it. And it's on the screen pretty soon. And if this is your first time, this is a prayer you'll want to know. Okay. So here we go. Or we'll say it by heart. We know it, don't we? The light of God surrounds you, Richard. The love of God enfolds you. And this is for Richard, so we're saying you. You can be included too, but this is for Richard. Here we go. The light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. The love of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is, and all is well. So we take a deep breath and we do what Richard would advise us to do and go forth and love and be love. Just be love and know that this is paradise right here, right now. And so now, in honor of Richard's very gaudy sense of humor sometimes, very sacred, very holy, and very sacrilegious, we will quote him now, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. We're only here for a short time, so what's the fuss? Now, as we're listening to this music and going on into the fellowship hall for food and hugs, please do this. Look into one another's eyes and share a loving embrace. As you do look into one another's eyes, see paradise. Namaste.